Jume bunzo jalo sorande gongje to bambo rashinji lo gongje to bambo rashinji lo gongje to ba fu rashinji lo ushan shan shan we mya pa
The supreme, profound, and sublime Dharma is difficult to encounter in a billion eons. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and kept it. I vow to attain the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta.
Yang di ce shanchu sanhua sanhua qinbu zhongden shanchu sanhua sanhua qinbi shanchu sanhua sanhua qinbi zhongden de lan derkto sorwa zambab zhongden de dala gongso sor da qtang der maung semchen na kiwa dan chiwi cena ya pambar jechin topi shirde pamshi ti chu tambar xiawo de ne zhongden de ji shanchu sanhua sai nyambo la ka tsarwa sai nyambo kyo nu shamba dan nyangji chi Nyerji chever digdig observan roachik semchen nam jarar dodne samji meti pichu tambar shana da kyola ti korki wa yever shago kyoji mnyer da tambar shu dang dagm nyan len debana kyoki gombar ngane zobran gerwa yino da ki jang tartar da maung semchen namla simle chongr maguso de nebjan chupsan wa sai nyang bu jongdan de landar kato sorap zambab jongdan de Ngundi bi karafag me pachang me bi tis devjang sobar kum thai jib jawan jikten der shonor kipa dang me kanji ke sanji tim san tune tela ti thong zam ji rang la ki bi sem ki na karwa jibji kenchi digba chembor nam zapran jerna ngus ti njarke dang jishker nam lam chopar shiba dang torngir shina kanzak ti sonum thai ba khome ba topar mu magoso yang ngun karwa kangok longu shimani ki changdam nyambi dis devjang sabar rumbo che ramjin ji shawan jikten ji kandar shono jeba gam vadme kanji ko sanji tim santu ne kachi yitsam ji var da kyapsun roba samkena kanzak den lana me bi lamle shirmar dobran gyoro yang ngun debi dis devjang shaba polo mosh boto mosh 보통 뭐시 집샤완 직된들 쇼노 개방 얻면 간식 상제 팀 산투바담 산데 나비 공부게 나양 간석데 란 똥측 와르던 돌라트릭 나더 티베른 제르나 세미 찌익직 베팀 산조나 무마고소 양문 조트메 밥조트메 빈데비 카라 짱메 비티스 대정셔바 상게 아로 집샤완 직된들 쇼노 개방 얻면 간식이 상제 팀 산투네 까지 chik zamla kyabsi sona sanji di kanzak de sanji shiwa changme padam jarjan san tubaran geran na nga songo nesi namyang martong jan shtagdab dewa pazam tsogba tubar gerwa go yangar ngon di biti si tevjang shaba rumbo chim samzang jibshawan jitin ndarab shono kebang wame kanjik sanji tim san tune di kibe sem kene kanzak marang rajab jambi kumhang tubaran gerwa yangar ngon kara khadame ba changme biti si devjang shaba chukur jamsan jibshawan jitin ndarab shono kebang wame kanjik sanji tim san tune 산투버 기르나 거라 첨부 갭착직 겐치 득바 자바른 겨로 양음 디비티스 대정식바 토바메바 리 겨보 집샤원 지tin 더르 쇼노 기바강 버메 강지가 상디팀 산투버 기르나 강즈데 긍거홍고 시마니기 상디기 짱 상디 남기 추르 게치르 담바담 차버른 겨 차버 차드니 니버드 장집기 고모 토버른 겨로 대비전들 문기티스 대정식바 다와양 딱딱 대비정식바 san number tagbadang devjang shaba ishi yongsu chbadang devjang shaba lana me badang devjang shaba jagyang nyambadang devjang shaba dawa nyagang dang devjang shaba dawi jinre la soba jotme bi sangyenam jitindir shono zumbab jomden de tartar dang maung semchim namla lhagam mo keba vadmet ganjiki sangji kim san lachik to berjerna ya payo kodame ba tobne sangji monbom san to ba nar mo maguso dina di semchen te der kiwadan chiwi cena gang pambar ja chimber tobne ngasong gone san na ya tongro manjoro ganzak ganjik sempu ba na di kim nyenkor nam thana mgchiki napi chet jaksang tombu Sanji Jim San Lanchik Jona, Ganzak Dim, Samebar, Ngapshiba, Matoba, Duba, Chitter Sagjan, Tamsis Zapper and Jerum, Samebar, Nis Dubana, Shinder Chief, Kara, Tonshir Gavarda, Tarik Kap Mamji. So Ganzak and Chikamara, Janji, Sanji Jim, San Jope, Tetak, Dubanam Ramji, Zapper and Jerna, Ganzak Runga Sanji Jim San Jona, Payo Hodameba, Tobadan. Dugba Hodamepan Zapan, Mumagoso, saying him was say Mulum Jim Dole, Sanji Jim San. San laf ngakbi, sanji jim san laf ngakbi, legerte gapa go.我们今天讲地藏经啊，然后下个礼拜的话呢，也是1和2、4、5啊，就是也是讲地藏经。
So let us begin our class on Ksitigarbha Sutra.
和以后怎么样？
I'm not entirely sure of what's going to happen
本
later.
来我们那个报信了
Initially, I had the plan to give the teachings on Uttara Tantra Shastra, the Ksitigarbha Sutra, as well as the Analects of
几
Confucius.
个论点呢，没有
I have not finished giving teachings on those classes yet,
今年或者是明
but
年
hopefully
有机会的话再讲。
we'll have the opportunities to continue those teachings this year or maybe the next.
各方面吧，
Because nowadays, our classes are very much influenced by the pandemic.
就对听众来讲呢，就
Our audience and lots of conditions are very different.
那我们就是以前这个也
But
答应过的，就是楞严
The
经啊
teachings I promised to
实
give,
际上是我们应该
such as Ksitigarbha Sutra,
10年当中
I really want to finish giving those teachings in my
不
lifetime.
仅是我们这个我的这个
In
各方面
fact,
也是
not
这样
only my classes are influenced
这
by
边
the
的一
pandemic,
些
the classes given by Khenpos and Khenmos,
时候是
they're also
没有
different
想象
than how we used to have. For example, we don't really have tutoring classes or debates and presentations. We don't have those anymore.
包括我们很多道友呢，就是自己学习
But we
的话
don't
呢
have the big influence or big changes because of the pandemic. Most of the time, our Sangha members are currently studying on their own with lots of diligence and attentiveness, so that's really wonderful as well. Throughout the process of studying and contemplation, I really encourage all of you to calm your mind, to be very sturdy and be very attentive in contemplation and studying. Of course, for lots of our staff members, they have to work at the same time as study and contemplation. I also heard some of the staff members, they don't really want to provide service to the others, but they want to enjoy the meals that's provided throughout their volunteer work. And in this way, I think their volunteer work is not going to be very helpful because they don't have a pure motivation. Then, of course, they won't be able to provide efficient service to the others. It is the best to provide service with an altruistic mind. People or students studying abroad, in fact, they would work at the same time as studying. The university students would do that. So we can accumulate provisions for ourselves while we study. It definitely won't delay our practice and our study. But there are people who can't be engaged in both of the studying and providing service. And there are people who can't be fully attentive in study and contemplation, even if that's the only task they have to do. So we should try our best to work in as many areas as we possibly can. Another aspect I want to address is that this year is indeed very, very special. even in the perspective of the whole world. We are currently undergoing great calamity and illness. And people from different aspects, I think, have generated a sense of cherishing mind towards our life. I've quoted from the Great Ornament Shastras, the Sutra of Great Ornament Shastra, where it says that the most beneficial condition is without illness. The most supreme abundance is contentment, and the most closest friend is the virtuous friend, and the most supreme bliss is nirvana. I think this is quite interesting. Living in this world, as long as we're healthy, then this is the best benefit that it could provide to us. And if we were to be contented, if we were to feel very content with whatever we have, we are very rich and abundant. If we were to meet the true, genuine spiritual friend, then that kind of virtuous influence is the most supreme in this world. Nirvana to us, let it be the nirvana of arhats or the Pratika Buddhas or the nirvana of Bodhisattva, those are not easy to gain, but that is the most supreme. So the first three supremes we should cherish without so much pressure from life, without illness. This is indeed very happy and very joyful. But of course, we should not grasp onto those. We should not grasp onto those kind of conditions. Let it be wealth or social status or your friends and families. We should not pay too much attention to have those conditions. As Sakya Pandita says that if we were to generate too much grasping, then they would also become the cause of hatred or afflictions. For example, if you were to generate a great grasping towards your friends and families, but that kind of grasping would bring great suffering and sometimes aversion, even hatred. If we were to develop lots of grasping towards social status or fame, that could bring suffering. Now we do have health and we have many favorable conditions. We should definitely cherish the conditions that we have. At the same time, we should not grasp onto the favorable conditions that we have. Otherwise, it could bring us great suffering, lots of tension, lots of unfavorable conditions. Therefore, on one hand, we should consider us to be very lucky to have all those favorable conditions. On the other, we should relax our body and mind. In fact, this kind of relaxation is very necessary and it's very profound. We should be relaxed in our work and life and in our family life, in our listening and contemplation and practicing of the Dharma. Do not get overstressed. Do not get over-attached. Otherwise, you will not be able to have a good mood or a good physical health, and maybe it would affect your sleep as well. In this way, it could affect your life in a rather negative sense. Therefore, we need to learn how to relax in our life. This is quite an important thing I would like to address. So now, let's move on with the teaching of Ksitigarbha Sutra. First of all, I would like to tell you a story. In the Ming continent, there was once a fisherman. He was once fishing in the ocean, and then instead of a fish, he found a stupa, a sculpture in the shape of a monastic. He had no idea what that statue or who that statue was. So he just kept it on the shore. And at that night, he had a dream. In that dream, he dreamt of an ordained monk. And then the monk asked him, "Why did you abandon me?" The fisherman asked, "Who are you?" The monastic replied, saying that, "I am Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and I was benefiting sentient beings in the ocean. And because of my beneficial actions over there, many sentient beings had now reborn in the celestial realm. This time, because I really want to benefit fishermen such as you, therefore I then entered into your net." After the fisherman woke up, he made lots of confession and then brought back the noble statue, also made a temple for the statue to make offering to the statue. And because of this noble statue, the local people were benefited greatly, because they would often go to that temple and make offerings and pay prostrations, pay venerations to that statue. Many felt that the statue has great blessings and is very helpful. So this kind of story tells us that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, while in the animal realm and human realm, the Bodhisattva would manifest in various ways to benefit the sentient beings. So we can also make the same aspiration. Whenever we have the favorable conditions, we should build different monasteries and temples, or create or make the statues of bodhisattvas in remote areas where people cannot even hear the names or see the image of Buddhas and bodhisattvas. If you don't have the favorable conditions to build monasteries and temples, then at least you can put the images of Shakyamuni Buddha or Ksitigarbha Bodhisattvas in restaurants, in cafes, in tea houses, or in bookstores. Any place that people could see the images of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In this way, the sentient beings would gain benefit in the immediate or intermediate ways. It would be of great benefit to all of them. So after we finish learning the Dharma, we should make the aspiration. We should then generate the power to, we should make the aspiration to benefit others. Of course, there are people who have the kind of power to benefit others, and there are the ones who probably don't have the personal strength to propagate the Dharma. But if your family is okay with your religion, then you can put a statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva at your home, so that your family members as well as your guests could also look at them. The monastics staying in monasteries, they can also try to give others blessings with the statue. In the southern areas, such as in Fujian province, many believers would bring their statues to the monastery so that the statues would be consecrated. And some of them would just place their statues in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas statues in the monastery, and then they would take them back. They have such ways to gain blessings. This is also a method. The names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are of great merit, are of inconceivable benefits. We should try our best to benefit ourselves and others in such a way. Now let's move to the 9th chapter, and in this chapter there are the names of the Buddhas. There are 10 names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as well as the merits. I've translated a book. It's called A Collection of Buddhas, Collection of Names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and I've asked people to chant it whenever they have time, or they can chant it regularly. In fact, chanting the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas could generate immeasurable and inconceivable merit, as it is said in the great Parinirvana Sutra, the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, where it says that the names of the Buddhas are difficult to hear even in hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of kalpas. So in this lifetime, we have the fortune to hear the names of Shakyamuni Buddha as well as Amitabha. In fact, this is quite fortunate, despite of our very unfortunate conditions. Despite all the sufferings, we can still hear the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We can still hear the teachings of the Buddha. We did not born in the kalpa where the Dharma is not there, so we're quite fortunate. Sometimes I contemplate to myself, though I have not great practice myself, but I have encountered the sutras and the Buddha's image, and all of these wonderful things. Therefore, even if I prostrate 3 times a day, that is quite important. So we should cherish our human body, because we don't know when impermanence will dawn on us. So let's continue with the chapter 9. At that time, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, for the sake of future sentient beings, I shall vow expound on methods which will enable them to gain great benefits in their life. I shall now give the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism to the sentient beings, so that the sentient beings will gain great benefit in their life to be liberated from birth and death, from the samsara. I only hope the world-honored one will be willing to listen." So today, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is expounding the Dharma, and the Buddha is listening. He said that while originally, usually it's Shakyamuni Buddha who will be giving the teaching, but today Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is making presentation to present his teaching to the Buddha. And he's saying that, "Please let me give you a presentation." And the Buddha told Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, saying that to rescue all of the suffering sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara, you compassionately want to expound these unimaginable methods. Now you're expounding these inconceivable methods to the sentient beings of 6 realms, and this is so wonderful. Now is the right time. You have all the favorable conditions, so the Buddha is saying that, yes, please go ahead and give the teachings. "For I shall be entering into nirvana soon. You should quickly proceed so you can fulfill your vow early." Sometimes giving the teaching and listening to the teaching, we should not procrastinate on either of those. When you want to give the teaching, you should do it right now. Do not procrastinate, because that time is the right time. That time is the best time. You should give teachings as soon as possible. So the Buddha said that since I shall be entering into nirvana soon, you should quickly proceed so you can fulfill your vow early. I think the time of Ksitigarbha Sutra is not so clear.
金藩王就是这个说法，就是后来的话呢，就是他得知这个释迦牟尼
Well, logically,
转生到这个33天的话呢，到哪里去这个
after the Buddha attained enlightenment, he gave teachings to his father, King Shuddhana, first, and then after knowing his mother was reborn in the Triyastrimshas heaven, then he went there to give the teaching. And there's another possibility that the Buddha gave the teachings in the human realm first and then went to give teachings in the celestial realm. In Larungar, we have the 4 great Dharma assemblies. The first one is at the beginning of the year when the Buddha subdued all the non-believers in the Chochu Duchen, and then the second Dharma assembly is in the Sagadawa Duchen, and then the Chokor Duchen, and then in the Tibetan month of the 9th month of Tibetan month, that on the Tibetan calendar is Labat Duchen. So we can see that Labat Duchen is later in the year. The teachings given to the Buddha's mother is in the later part, in the later time. So over here, the Buddha said that since I am entering into nirvana soon, your great vow will be fulfilled. Therefore, I don't need to worry about the deliverance of the present and the future sentient beings. Just as the mother is about to depart from this world, the only thing that she thinks of is her child. Similarly, when the Buddha is about to pass into nirvana, the only thing he thinks of is the sentient beings in the dark age. He only worries about the sentient beings. He did not worry about himself, just as stated in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. It says that the Tathagata do not suffer from his own pain, rather he suffers for the suffering of the sentient beings. The Buddha does not have any intrinsic suffering because he has already eradicated the suffering and the origin of suffering. But whenever he sees that the sentient beings are suffering, he feels that suffering as if he himself is going through those suffering. He has such great compassion for the sentient beings. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas sufferings are not like the mundane beings. The mundane beings often would be very self-centered. I recall there was once I went to some place and there was a great master who was giving a teaching, and he said that if one person constantly talks about I or me, then that means that person has lots of grasping to oneself, because mind is connected to language. Mind is connected to speech, and if one were to talk about I a lot, that means that person has lots of grasping towards oneself. Then that person would suffer a lot. I indeed often feel that is true, because the suffering of the mundane beings are usually generated because of oneself. All the tears that we shed, all the heartbreaks, and all the sadness that we feel are usually because of a sense of self. But the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are very different. Whenever it comes to themselves, even if the flesh are sliced off one by one, they would not feel great suffering according to the Madhyamika Avatara. But whenever they see sentient beings are suffering, they cannot endure that suffering. So the Buddha said that, well, since you are going to give the method to the sentient beings, then I would not worry about the deliverance of present and future sentient beings.
那接下来的话呢，就地藏王菩萨开始讲了这个佛陀这样
To
开示，
continue,
佛陀这样
Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva started to give teachings as after the praises and permission from given by the Buddha. So Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva started to expound the merits of chanting or remembering the names of the Tathagata.
那么这个就已经这个可什么声音？吹喇叭是吧？
What's that sound? Honking?
什么？汽车来了？
Oh, a car? A truck?
汽车喇嘛。
A car honking?
汽车喇嘛。那么地藏菩萨是这样讲的，就是下面就是第一个啊，就是说是这个。
So over here, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva started to expound the Dharma, and he said that to the Buddha,
过去无量劫的时候啊，就是无量阿僧祇劫，
World-honored one,
有这个
countless
佛出世，他的号呢
Asamkhya numbers of kalpas ago, there was a Buddha in the world with the title Boundless Body, Tathagata. Chanting this name is indeed very helpful and very beneficial. We don't have the time to do that today, but I really hope that whenever you have time, you should chant the names. After hearing this Buddha's name, if there are men or women who instantly develop devotion to this Buddha, then they will be liberated from the offenses which would cause them to suffer cycles of life and death for 40 kalpas. If we were to make offerings and chant the names of this Tathagata, then the benefit that could be gained from this would be immeasurable. I wonder how the body would look like, how the boundless body, Tathagata's form or body would look like. But maybe they're very different.
好像戒律一下这什么里面就是有一个国王的话，那就是他看到就是周围呢就是。
In fact, whenever we build statues or make offering, the merit would be quite wondrous. It's quite boundless. There was a king once. That king saw that there are 84,000 countries that are very remote and without the Dharma. So he built 84,000 statues and give one Buddha statue to each of those remote countries. And that king was the previous life of Shakyamuni Buddha. And later on, the relic stupa of the Buddha were divided into 84,000 stupas. There are stories like such. So whenever we see the remote areas, I really wanted to build the statues to benefit them. I went to Africa twice, and I saw some Chinese monks were building statues over there, and indeed the merit is quite great. Sometimes I think to myself, I should probably stay in Africa when I get old. There are 54 countries in the African continent, and on that continent there is no names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or the forms and image of them. And for that reason, various kinds of calamities would happen in those countries. If we were to be able to build some statues or the temples and monasteries, I think their life could be transformed. I haven't fully made such aspiration. I'm not sure how long I will be able to live in my later life, but as a monastic, I see everywhere as my home. Let it be Africa, Europe, America. It doesn't really matter too much. In fact, there's no difference. As long as my presence could bring a little bit of benefit to the sentient beings over there, I would indeed look forward to do so. Whenever I have the opportunity, I really want to die in Africa. And maybe the people in Africa could bury my body over there. The local people probably don't have the culture to have the burial culture over there. I've been to a few different prisons in Africa, and I saw that people would lie in there, and nobody really care about how everyone is over there. Anyhow, we should still make the aspiration in remote areas where the Dharma is not prosperous. We should propagate Dharma over there. As nowadays, we look at places that is abundant, such as the cities in mainland area. There are many people who would propagate the Dharma, but if the condition is not good in certain areas, there are not many people who would propagate the Dharma. But for the great masters, in fact, they do not have the dualistic mind. In fact, this is the difference of people's karma. Anyhow, we should try our best to benefit others with whatever capacity we have. To continue moreover, as many kalpas as there are sands in the Ganges rivers in the past, there were a Buddha in the world. His title was Jewel Nature's Tathagata. After hearing this Buddha's name, if there are men or women who devotedly seek refuge in this Buddha in the time to snap one's fingers, then they shall never regress from the path to enlightenment. Even for a very short moment, to generate the mind of taking refuge to this Buddha, then this person will not retrogress on the path of Mahayana, on the path of enlightenment. And this person will be able to have the perfect wealth in lifetimes. In fact, whomsoever the Buddha is taking refuge, the merit of such is immeasurable. I've used this teaching before. I've quoted this teaching from the Sun Treasure Sutra, where it says that if one were to take refuge in the Buddha, the Maras won't be able to harm that person. Even if this person's mind is distracted and not observe the perfect precept, one will definitely still be able to enter nirvana. I quoted this. In fact, this is quoted in the words of my perfect teacher as well. There's a Chinese translation of this sutra. When I translated this sutra, I called it the Sun Treasure Sutra. The translation may be a little bit different, but what it says is that whenever we take refuge in the Buddha, sometimes when we take refuge in the three jewels and take the 5 precepts, if we take refuge of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the merit is great. If we were to chant the name of the Buddha if we were to say the word of Namo Buddhaya, we will eventually attain the Buddhahood. The merit is indeed inconceivable. Additionally, in the past, there was a Buddha in the world in the name of Supreme Padma Tathagata. Some of the translations says it's Supreme Red Lotus Tathagata. When there are virtuous men or women hear the name of this Buddha, if it is even just listening to the name of this Buddha, this kind of hearing will plant a seed in the alaya, and this person will be able to be reborn in the celestial realm for 1,000 lifetimes. This Tathagata's name, the Supreme Padma Lotus Tathagata, is included in a sutra translated by Bodhisattva. In Tibet, we have the Sutra of 1,000 Buddha's names. But I think in mainland area, they pay even more attention and place even more importance on chanting the names of the Buddhas. So the great masters in the past, they've translated the names of the Buddhas. Sutras such as Manjushri Nama Sangiti in Tibet, in fact, it is considered as a tantra that could review the wisdom within one that has such great merits of doing so. In Chinese language, it is also called the Sutra of the Names. But over here, it doesn't really talk too much of the names. In other teachings, in other sutras, there are names of the 1,000 Buddhas of the good Kalpa. And many sutras included in the Tripitaka include those names. Whenever you have time, you should definitely look over those sutras and chant them and recite them. They could bring great benefits. Some Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' names are very short, but they are of great benefits. This Tathagata's name, some of the sutras would use Sanskrit and some of them would use directly Chinese, and some of the sutras would talk a little bit about the Pure Land of this Tathagata. Anyhow, whenever we talk about the names of the Tathagatas, the merit is immeasurable. Even if we just simply hear the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it could bring immeasurable benefit. Then how about chanting it with great sincerity and reverence? Then that kind of merit would definitely be immeasurable and inconceivable. Therefore, I really encourage you to chant the names of the Buddhas. Moreover, in the past, in inexpressible Asamkhya numbers of kalpas ago, there was a Buddha in the world by the name of Lion's Roar Tathagata. After hearing this Buddha's name, if there are men or women who have a thought of seeking refuge in this Buddha, then they shall encounter countless Buddhas who will touch their heads and predict their future enlightenment. This Lion's Roar Buddha, this name is included in lots of sutras in both Tibetan and the Chinese ones. Over here, it didn't specify who chanted chanted, it says that whomsoever chants it, the virtuous men and women, if they chant the name, then or hear the name of this Tathagata and take refuge in this Tathagata, then the immeasurable Buddhas will give blessings and give predictions of their future enlightenment. This is definitely very important. Additionally, in the past there was a Buddha called Krakuchanda Tathagata. This Buddha's name is very familiar to many of you. In fact, Krakuchanda Buddha is the first Buddha of the good kalpa. In some of the records, it says that at the time of human lifespan of 40 years of age, this Buddha was born. Of course, there are different records. This Tathagata is indeed very important as well. Whomsoever hears the name of this Tathagata to revere, to prostrate, to praise this Buddha, then that person will be reborn as a great Brahma in the Bhadrakalpa. And this person will become the great Brahma. Even if that person was reborn in the human realm, then they will be the king of all humans as well. Moreover, in the past, there was a Buddha named Vipashin Buddha. Vipashin Buddha comes after the Krakuchanda Buddha. If there are men or women who hear the Buddha's name, they shall never fall into the realms of suffering. They also shall often be reborn in the human or heavenly realms to receive superior subtle blessings. Upon hearing the names of the Buddha, or pay reverence, then the benefit would be great. Over here it says that simply by listening or hearing this Buddha's name, they shall never fall into the realms of suffering. Sometimes we would consider lots of prerequisites. Do you have faith? Do you have reverence when you hear the name of the Tathagata? But over here it says that if you were to only hear the name of this Buddha, the sentient beings will never fall. The men or women will never fall into the realms of the suffering. So we should try to propagate the names to sentient beings so that the beings will never fall into the three lower realms. This is quite important. Then the seventh Buddha. Additionally, in the past, as many kalpas ago, as all of the sands in innumerable Ganges rivers, there were a Buddha in the world named Ranasambhava Buddha, Tathagata. If there are men or women who hear this Buddha's name, they shall ultimately not fall into the realms of suffering. They shall often be born into heaven and receive blessings. Over here, it doesn't say that they will be born into human realm. It just says that it will be born into heaven realm. This Buddha's name, according to the Golden Light Sutra, there was a story of an elderly
就是人像这个多的讲，也就是说这个头上有这个肉髻的那个髻，就是报记如来。所以应该可能不同译本吧，就是不同译本的话呢，那么这个是应该是报记如来。所以报记如来的话呢，就是尤其是对这个众生的这个二遍就是旁生的二遍，就是如果我们去念的话呢，那这个旁生这个就是这个恶趣的众生呢，就永远也不会堕落。就是这个是非常重要的。
Some of the translations are different. Anyhow, to chant the name of this Buddha, especially chanting the name of this Tathagata to the sentient beings, to the animals, then they will not be reborn in the three lower realms again. Therefore, whenever people ask me to chant the names or chant the sutra for them, let it be men or animals, I would chant the names of Amitabha, Shakyamuni Buddha, as well as Ranasambhava's name. And if I have time, I would chant the 7 Buddha's name of Medicine Buddha. Sometimes, if I can remember, the 8 Bodhisattvas' name, as well as other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' names. Whenever people ask me to practice poa for them, according to the requirements of the words of my perfect teacher, the ones who practice poa for others, they have to have a high level of realization. But chanting the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, everyone can do it. Therefore, if people ask you, or even without their request, whenever we see the sentient beings are about to die, whenever they're at the brink of death, you should use your sincerity and you should use your kind aspiration to chant the names of the Buddhas at their ear. This would definitely bring 100% benefit to the sentient beings, especially at the beings who are about to pass away. It doesn't matter who chant the names, just like medicine. Some medicine, people, even if the doctor don't understand how the medicine works, they would give it to them. But since this is the medicine that's already prescribed, then the nurse could give it, the doctors could give it, and other people could give the medicine to the ill ones. And then because it's already prescribed medicine, it will not have side effects, and it will bring great benefit to the sentient beings. So for a Buddhist with belief, first of all, you need to understand the supreme meaning of the names of bodhisattvas, as well as the names of our masters. Sometimes we should even remember the names of our gurus. It is hard to directly call our teachers' names directly, such as Pontsog Rinpoche. It's very difficult for me to directly say his name, especially after the passing of the guru. It's very difficult to say their names directly. But when it comes to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' names, I really feel that it carries great strength. Of course, to myself, when it comes to the names of the gurus, when they're still in this world, to chant their names, it would definitely plant a virtuous seed on the alaya. When we chant the supplication of Pontsog Rinpoche, whenever we chant to the part of prostrate at the feet of Jigme Pontsog, in fact, chanting his name gives different feelings, different devotion to myself. Of course, it could be that my devotion to him is different. But without devotion, there's no benefit. So today, whenever we talk about the names of Buddhas to the ones who do not have any faith, they probably don't have any feelings to it at all. And they don't generate any feelings upon hearing the names of their gurus. Just as is stated in the 10 Dharmas of Mahayana Sutra, I often quote this in Tibetan language, and it says that for the ones without any faith, they would not be able to generate any virtuous deeds. Just like when a seed is completely burned, it cannot generate any sprouts anymore. In the Tibetan translation, it says no sprout can be emerged from a burnt seed. So a sprout must be a green sprout. Won't be purple or yellow. So in the Tibetan translation, it says the green sprout won't be emerged from a burnt seed. That being said, I notice the environmental group that we have over here, they are not really beautifying our environment. I went to the mandala structure today and I saw that all the flowers were all dry. Then it is not the green sprouts or green leaves, it's the yellow sprouts. People who volunteer over there or people who are the staff members, I'm not sure how they can just leave the flowers at the side of the road without caring for them at all. I'm not sure what they're doing. There are people who have lots of passion at the beginning of doing certain things, and later on they get very then get slacked off. In fact, success comes from detail, and success comes from persistence. If you do not pay attention to details, then there's really no need or no benefit of generating temporary passion to volunteer on certain posts. Anyhow, I got sidetracked again. So the next one, it is, moreover, in the past, there was a Buddha with the title Ratna Lakshana Tathagata. After hearing this Buddha's name, if there are men or women who develop devotion into Buddha in their hearts, they shall soon attain fruition of arhathood. This Buddha's name is similar to the one that's similar to the Pada Sutra. And then the ninth one, additionally, in the past immeasurable Asamkhya numbers of kalpas ago, there was a Buddha in the world with the title Kasaya Devaja Tathagata. According to the mainland's version of liturgy of Great Compassion, water confession liturgy, there was a name of the Kasaya Devaja Tathagata, where it says that upon hearing the name of this Buddha, they will be liberated from the offense which will cause them to enter cycles of life and death for 100 kalpas. I really hope that you could write down the Buddha's names, this 10 Tathagatas' names. You don't necessarily have to write their merits, but even if you just copy the names of the 10 Buddhas and then add a Namo in front of them and then chant every day, it would be very beneficial. Because you probably don't have enough time to chant the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day. But chanting the 10 names of the Tathagatas with the Namo in front of them, it would be it can be accomplished very quickly and would bring great benefits. The next one.
有点不好意思，就马上把课转那个，害怕别人认识了。
Moreover, in the past, there was a Buddha with the title of Mahabhijna Sumeru Tathagata.
这个佛史还有个善忘，就是某个人没有这个善忘。
Someone's name is very similar. Someone's name is very similar to this Tathagata. Oh, don't get embarrassed by pulling up your mask. It doesn't make you this Tathagata. This Tathagata also has the name of Sumeru. You don't have that Sumeru title in your name. If there are men or women who hear this Buddha's title, then they shall encounter as many Buddhas as there are sands in the Ganges River. These Buddhas will give them extensive Dharma teachings. Additionally, in the past, there is Sudachandra Buddha, Sumeru Buddha, and Jnanajina Buddha, Vimala Nama Raja Buddha, Jnana Sadi Buddha, Anuttara Buddha, Sugosha Buddha, Purana Chandra Buddha, and Moon-faced Buddha. There are these inexpressible numbers of Buddhas. For all the present and future sentient beings, regardless if they're devas or humans, regardless if they're men or women, if they devotedly chant just one Buddha's name, they can generate immeasurable amount of merit. Let it be chanting the one Buddha's name or 10,000 Buddha's names. In fact, the merit would be immeasurable. In the collection of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' names, I really hope that people could chant those Buddhas' names. Some people persisted in that practice of chanting the names, and some of them, they would chant lots of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' names. In fact, chanting their names would bring great benefit and would be even greater if they can chant many names. Those sentient beings who do so shall attain great benefit during time of their birth and death. They shall ultimately not fall into the suffering realms. Even if you chant the name of Amitabha or Shakyamuni Buddha or Ranakutta Tathagata, if you were to chant the name of one Buddha's name, then at the time of death, it could dispel the five inexpiables, as well as all the other negative karmas. When we chant the King of Aspiration, we often also chant that because of the lack of wisdom. I practiced many vices, including the five inexpiables. By chanting the great aspiration of Samadabhadra, within one moment, all of such illness shall be relinquished. When Pontsuk Rinpoche was giving teachings, there was one Khenpo, Gato Khenpo. Khenpo Garta, he often asked Pontsuk Rinpoche, saying that, wow, really, Samadabhadra's aspiration of Samadabhadra is so supreme. It will be so easy to relinquish all the negative karma. Indeed, whenever we chant the King of Aspiration, all of the five inexpiables can be relinquished. But it's hard to say if after practicing the five inexpiables, one can directly be reborn in the Pure Land. That is very difficult to say, though. At the time of death, if one were to chant the name of Amitabha or Shakyamuni Buddha's name, then the negative karma would relinquish slowly. If one were to chant the names for them, even if one practiced lots of negative deeds, such kind of negative deeds would also be relinquished. Then, if one were to chant the names of the Buddhas for themselves, such merit would be immeasurable, and the negative sins that's relinquished would also be immeasurable. So we should chant the King of Aspiration, chant the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and confess all of the negative deeds that we've done in our mind stream, in our past. So today we finish this chapter, and this year I really want to finish teachings of Ksitigarbha Sutra, and in this way it would be a great if I were to be able to finish teaching of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it would be of a great project that's finished for myself as well as for you. So whenever I finish each chapter, I feel really good and feel very relaxed. I feel that wonderful, I finished teaching this chapter. So I really hope that you can receive this teaching with a great faith, receive the great Mahayana teaching. This way our life would be meaningful.
Chubum Tolin Joa